Hey guys, today I'm going to be telling you about why deer hunting is so important, and not only to Michigan but to all states that have deer and allow deer hunting, and why it's so important. And if you are someone who may not like deer hunting, maybe this persuasive speech might, change your point of view or perspective on deer hunting and why it is actually more important than what a lot of people think. And a little bit of backstory why I'm wearing camo right now is I just went hunting tonight actually, and I shot a doe. So kind of just doing my part in keeping the deer check, the population in balance. And kind of to start off my speech here is that a lot of people deer hunt are just deer hunting to try to get the biggest buck, and as a hunter, I mean, that's fine because, that's what I want. I want the biggest buck too. But what a lot of people don't realize is that they're helping keep the deer population in balance by shooting deer every year. In 2016, M Live did an article about all the deer that were harvested in Michigan. And it was estimated that there was 340,000 deer that was harvested in 2016, and that there was a roughly 1.75 million total population of deer in Michigan, which some of you may not realize that there is that many deer. And it's pretty crazy that that many deer get shot every year and that the total population is that large. Now, if you were to think for a second, what would happen if 340,000 deer weren't being shot every year? Well, population would soon skyrocket with no pressure of deer hunting and no deer being shot. Deer typically in the wild live to, I'd say, about 6 years old, 7 sometimes, but most of them get shot when they're around 2 to 4 years old. And without the pressure of deer hunting, deer could live to be 11, 12, or even older. That would mean that all these deer in these areas, that they would eat themselves essentially out of their own habitat because they would overgraze on food and then not have enough food, basically to survive. With that happening, there'd be more deer dying of starvation with no food and with the increasing age, and with deer eating themselves out of their own habitat and overpopulating their own homes and habitat, they would be having to move closer to cities and towns, people's houses, just to try to find other sources of food and other cover and homes. And when deer start to do that and migrate towards cities, then that's when the rate of car accidents and cars hitting deer would go up, and it'd go up every year because the deer population would keep growing. And besides just the deer population going up, which that's obvious, more cars would be hitting deer, but each year millions of dollars are spent on licenses and tags throughout the state. And all this money benefits the DNR and the state of Michigan economically, which is pretty crazy that it's deer hunting in itself is just such a big revenue for the state. And there's thousands of companies, hunting brands all over the nation in itself, and all these companies and brands employ thousands of people. And so without deer hunting, all those companies and brands would no longer be, they'd all go out of business, which would leave thousands and thousands of employees that work at all those companies and stores to be unemployed. So not only is it a huge money maker and revenue for the DNR, state of Michigan, but it employs thousands of people. And so without deer hunting, there would be thousands of people unemployed. And let's see here. Another thing here in my speech, in my notes that I wrote down, was that if hunting was to suddenly no longer happen, it wouldn't only cause the deer population to skyrocket, but it would also cause the predator population to skyrocket, which would mean animals such as coyotes, wolves, bobcats, all of these would go up because food, which deer is their food, right? So coyotes, wolves, bobcats, they would have an abundance of food with so many deer, so these populations would grow as well. And not only would it make these populations go up, it'd leave the rest of nature unbalanced. With deer eating so many, so much food and crops, they eat themselves out of their homes, but they wouldn't eat just themselves out. They'd eat all the other animals in the area because they'd leave no food for any other animals and creatures, birds, and they'd leave nothing for anything else to eat. And what you can see behind me here I brought is it's a deer decoy. And what people do is they set these deer decoys out in their fields or woods where they're hunting, right? And part of the reason of why people do this now is because in the state of Michigan, just in the past 2 years, food and baiting has been banned in the state of Michigan. So instead of attracting deer by food, people have been starting to migrate towards decoys to try to attract deer. Because without deer being attracted to come right into food, it's harder for hunters to get deer into shooting range. So that's why decoys have become more popular for hunters to try to bring deer in closer. And that's all part of just hunters wanting to get their deer, and the more hunters that get deer, they're just helping keep the population in check, because more deer being killed means that keeping the population in balance, And I'd say essentially that's pretty much my whole speech. To kind of recap, I'd say that I believe as a hunter that deer hunting should be a right to every person, every citizen that wants to deer hunt, because without deer hunting, nature and wildlife would be unbalanced, and the DNR in the state of Michigan would not be economically balanced. They'd be losing millions of dollars, and also all the employees that are employed by all these deer hunting companies and brands would all be left unemployed. So I think that hopefully this persuaded some people that maybe not, that don't deer hunt. Hopefully this persuaded them to think that, in the bigger picture, how much deer hunting really affects people in the state and, wildlife in general. So hopefully this helps, and thank you for watching.